Hi folks, Jack Stanley, and I wanted to add a little bit dealing with recording studios and the microphone and how things have changed. I wanted to mention initially that some careers were lost because of the problems with the microphone. Now, when I say the problems with the microphone, obviously the microphone enhanced recording tremendously, changed the whole face of recording in many respects, because suddenly you could hear lots of things you never could before. And performers and singers could do things that no one could ever dream of with the acoustic method. And also the range of sound. Basically, you could only capture certain notes on the acoustic system. You just couldn't go so high, you couldn't go so low, because you just wouldn't have the energy to produce it. Now, in previous video, I mentioned how some careers were lost, but some careers were somewhat enhanced. You think of some of the great pianists, they did far better electrically than they did acoustically. Paderewski had been making recordings since 1902, and so in 1925, when electric recording came out, within a few years he made a series of recordings, and of course they were far better. They sounded like a piano, much more so. Other companies were not exactly enthralled with electrical recording. Edison, for instance, refused to even go near a microphone. And in fact, Edison records would remain microphone-free until latter part of 1927. Same with the cylinders. In fact, the cylinders weren't recorded electrically. They were, what would you call the electric, dubbed discs onto cylinders. So they were actually electric dubs, the cylinders put out at that time. So they're acoustic dubs of electric recording, whatever that is. But that was the kind of like the swan song of the Edison company. It was quickly going out of business, and it had been mismanaged so badly for so long, and it was ready to go. But you think about the Victor Company and think of Columbia, and think of how the orchestras, how the studio operations were. Years ago with acoustic recording, it was like being in a well-orchestrated elevator. Everybody was all crammed together around that horn because the horn was the master. When the microphone came out, suddenly people could be spread out. People could look like they were actually performing. And an orchestra could set themselves up somewhat like an orchestra should. And so that was really very important. And some singers who had lyric voices. One singer who started making records in 1902 was Henry Burr. And interestingly, by 1925, when electrical recording came out, he had a pretty easy switch to it. The unfortunate thing is the style of music started to change. And Henry Burr, Harry McClaskey, found himself losing an audience, although he did make a number of electrical recordings, all the way up to 1929 for Victor. In fact, Billy Murray and Henry Burr made a recording called The Minstrel Show of 1929, which was the last hurrah for many of the old Victor performers. But Henry Burr would continue and do radio, and he did the Chicago Barn Dance program, and that was until 1941, when he died. Some of these singers, some of the really old-timers, found ways of using the microphone, found ways of doing new jobs, and of course at that same time radio came out, and a good deal of the old-time performers became radio performers. And it's pretty incredible how things changed. how the quality of records changed, how the way to make records changed, and how brassy, loud, pushy voices that were so effective with acoustic recording suddenly became not wanted at all with the microphone, because first off, the microphone would pick up any problems with the voice. Now, you know something, with acoustic recording you could hide a multitude of sins, basically by volume a lot of times. But the microphone picked up every little nuance, every little sound, every little mistake, every little this or that. Everyone had to mind their P's and Q's when they made their records. But the studios changed, the companies changed. In fact, so much changed. In fact, the world of recording in, let's say, 1930 was about as distant as the world of recording from 10 years earlier as you can imagine. It was incredible. Making a record in 1920 was a very, very different affair. In 1930, the entire world had changed in the field of recording.